Are you able to? Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. We are starting from text 21.
Yes, if you can read the title first, please.
Okay.
And the invocation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 5, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasdev. Text 21. Text 21. Tvam Atmana Atmanam Avehi Amoghadve Parasya Punsa Aparmatmana Kalam Ajam Prajatam Jagata Shivayatan Mahanubhava Abhyudyo Adhiganyatam.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Your goodness has perfect vision. You yourself can know the you yourself can know the super soul personality of Godhead because you are present at the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please therefore describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, more vividly.
Text 22. Idam hi punsas tapasa shutasya va swishtasya suktasya cha buddhi dattayo avichutyarth kavi bhi nirupito yad uttam shlok gunan varnanam.
Learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined in choice poetry.
Text 23. Aham puratit bhave bhavam mune dasyastu kasyastan vedvadinam nirupito balak eva yoginam shushushne pravrishi nirvivikshitam.
O Muni, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of certain maidservants engaged in the service of brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service.
Text 24. Te maye apet khila chapale arbake dante jit kiran ke anuvartini chakru kripa yadyapi tulya darshana shushru mane munyo alpabhashini.
Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I had self-control and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty and I did not speak more than required.
Text 25. Uchcheshta lepan anumodito dvijaye sakritsnam bhunje tad apast kilbhishe evam pravittasya vishuddhtetasa tad dharma evatma ruchi prajayate.
Once only by their permission, I took the remnants of their food, and by so doing, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalists became attractive to me.
Text 26. Tatra anvaham Krishna katha pragayatam Manograhena शिन्वं मनोहरा ताशध्या मे अनुपदं विशिन्वता प्रिये श्रवस्या अंग ममाभद रुचि.
O Vyasdeva, in that association and by the mercy of those great Vedantists, I could hear them describe the attractive activities of Lord Krishna, and thus listening attentively, my taste of hearing of the personality of Godhead increased at every step.
Text 27. Tasmin stada labdhe ruchi mahamate priyeshravasya askilita mati mama yaya aham etad sad asat swamayaya paschemai brahmani kalpitam pare.
O great sage, as soon as I got the taste of the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my test developed, I realized that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental.
Text 28. Itham sharat pravrishikav ritu hare Vishinvato me anusavam yashomalam sankirtyamanam munibhi mahatmabhi bhakti pravritatma rajastamopaha.
Thus, during 2 seasons, the rainy season and autumn, I had the opportunity to hear these great soul sages constantly chant the unadulterated glories of the Lord Hari. As the flow of my devotional service began, the coverings of the modes of passion and ignorance vanished.
Text 29. Tatsevam me anuraktasya prashritasya hatena sa shraddhanasya balasya dantasya anuchurasya cha.
I was very much attached to those sages. I was gentle in behavior, and all my sins were eradicated in their service. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. I had subjugated the senses. I was strictly following them with body and mind.
Text 30. Jnanam guhyatamam yat sat sakshat bhagvat uditam anvochan gameshyanta kripyadin vatsala.
As they were leaving, those Bhakti Vedantas, who are very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the personality of Godhead himself.
Text 31. Yene evaham bhagavato vasudevasya vedhasa maya anubhavam idam yen gachanti tatpadam.
By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Shri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally meet him.
Text 32. Etat samsuchitam brahmam tapatrya chikitsitam yad ishvare bhagavati karma brahmani bhavitam.
O Brahmana, Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna.
Text 33. Amyo yascha bhutanam jayate yen suvrata tadev he amayam dravyam napunati chikitsitam.
O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which is caused by that very same thing?
Text 34. Evam ninam kriya yoga सर्वे संस्कृति हेतवा त एवात्म विनाशाया कल्पन्ते कल्पिता परे.
Thus, when all men's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work.
Text 35. Yadatra kriyate karam bhagvat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adhinam hi bhakti yog samanvitam.
Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor.
Text 36. Kurvana yatra karmani bhagvat shikshya sakrit grinanti guna namani krishnasya anusmiranti cha.
While performing duties according to the order of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities.
Text 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradhumanaya Aniruddhaya Nama Sankarshanaya Cha.
Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansions, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarsana.
Text 38. Iti murti abhidhanena mantramurtim amurtikam yajate yag purusham sasamyak darshana puman.
Thus, he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who has no material form.
Text 39. Imam swa nigmam brahman avetya mad anutishtitam atanme jnanam aishwaryam swasmin bhavam chateshava.
O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service.
Text 40. Tam apya adhabhrashuta vishrutam vibho samapyate yena vidam bhubutsitam prakhyai dukhe muhur adit atmanam sanklesh nirvanam ushanti na anyatha.
Please, therefore, describe the Almighty Lord's activities which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My sincere apologies for my mistakes. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shobhana Mataji and Rasalila Srimati Mataji. Beautiful recitations. Thank you so much. So now let's see, Prabhuji has joined us. Hare Krishna, Prayagraj, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So I'll hand over to you. I'll make you the co-host now.
Okay, thank you. So today we are going to discuss 1535.
Yes, so I'll stop sharing my screen now, Prabhuji. Have you received the rights to take over?
Yeah, okay. I will
Thank you.
share my screen now.
Thank you.
I guess everyone can see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Thank you. So it's a very, it's a Lord's arrangement that we will be glorifying the supremacy of the Lord through this verse today. And tomorrow we are celebrating the Janmashtami. So it's a very good meditation for all of us to chant some of the very important verses that which establishes the Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his glories and glories about his devotional service, about the Bhakti Yoga. So let's chant the verse and then we will start. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.35 Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad dhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad dhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad dhinam hi Bhakti Yoga Samanvitam. Word by word translation. Yat, whatever. Atra, in this life or world. Kriyate, does perform. Karma, work. Bhagavat, unto the personality of Godhead. Paritoshanam, satisfaction of. Jnanam, knowledge. Yat, tat, what is so called. Adhinam, dependent. He, certainly. Bhakti Yoga, devotional. Samanvitam, dovetailed with Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada, we can see the beauty, those who know and understand Sanskrit. Prabhupada has made every single word of this transliteration in such a way that it is all connected with the path of bhakti. It is grammatically proper, but at the same time, he brings the whole mood of loving relationship with the Lord, even in his transliteration, word by word translation as well. Let's read the translation. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Purport by Prabhupada. The general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but actually Bhakti Yoga is above both karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of jnana or karma. Or on the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on Bhakti Yoga. This Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, as recommended by Sri Narad to Vyasa, is specifically recommended because the principle is to satisfy the Lord. The Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him, but going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infections. It's a humor as well, material infections. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. This affection is also an infection. This purification means attainment of spiritual knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of the Lord. Other knowledge, being devoid of bhakti yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation, as already explained in connection with the stanza, Naishkarmyam apya achyuta bhava varjitam. The conclusion is that a devotee engaged in the unalloyed devotional service, unalloyed service of the Lord, specifically in hearing and chanting of these transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Joy. The Prabhupada ki jai. So let's chant the Mangala Charana, and then we will continue our today's discussion. So is there any suggestion here? Yeah. Okay. Om Adnyantimirandasya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jeva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Yam Pravajeta Manupe Tamape Tatyam Dvaipayano Virahakar Aju Ava Putreti Tanmayatayo Tarvo Videndustam Sarva Bhutarudayam Nimana Pusmi Yantah Pravishya Mama Vachamimam Prasultam Sanjeevayatya Akhila Shakti Viraswadam Anyam Charana Shravanat Vagadim Pranam Purti Purushaya Tukyam Om Adnyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapnantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Vadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Setam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavando Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpataru Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Grim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dhinatarinam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Paramanandamantam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Pinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Vechatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Yadatra Kriyate Karma Bhagavad Paritoshanam Jnanam Yattadadhinam Hi Bhakti Yoga Samanvitam. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. So it's a very instructive verse again. Whole Srimad Bhagavatam is instructive actually. Every single verse there is some instruction, something to take away and something to absorb. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Aradhya Bhagwan Brajesha Tanaya Sadhama Vrindavanam. Who is our Aradhya Bhagwan? The Krishna in Vrindavan. Brajesha Tanayas, the person who is in Vrindavan. Aradhya Bhagwan Brajesha Tanayas Sadhama Vrindavanam. And so we worship the Vrindavan Dham as well. Ramya Kachita Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargenya Kalpita. Beyond our imagination, the Upasana, the worship of the Lord by the loving exchanges, Ramya Kachita Upasana Vrajavadhu, all the gopis, damsels of Vrindavan, Vargenaya Kalpita, that we can't even, the materially conditioned person can't even imagine, beyond our imagining, Vargenaya Kalpita. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Amalam, where it is all described and how we can understand this is by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, which is none other than the body of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Amalam, because Praman is the criteria. Amala, the spotless, absolute platform, Srimad Bhagavatam. Prema Pumartho Mahan, which gives, what does it give? It gives that ultimate loving relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma, the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Who says this? It is said by the supreme devotee of the Lord, who is Lord himself. Who is that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the last line is Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatra Daraha Napara. So that is the opinion of the Supreme Lord, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Mata. Mata means opinion. Matamidam, and that's what it is, established. Tatra Daraha Napara. And that is the supreme opinion, which is even beyond our understanding of the completeness of this Amala Puran, because it is none other than the matured, ripened, the sweetest and the perfect fruit of all the Vedic knowledge, Vedanta Sutra and everything. So that's why Bhagavatam, every single verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is something to get absorbed, something to learn. And especially the first canto, Srila Prabhupada has given the complete summary of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what we are studying, there is something very, very powerful, very amazing. So, what Srila Prabhupada tells here in this particular purport, let's what he establishes, what he's explaining us here is, he says, who is Bhagavat? Who is Bhagwan, the Supreme Lord, who has unlimited opulences with him? And what are all those opulences? Strength, wealth, beauty, fame, intelligence, and renunciation. Unlimited, ever expanding, the most perfectly balanced use of those opulences. Only one person can do, and that's the Supreme Lord. And he is Bhagwan. What is Paritoshanam? Paritoshanam, because let's go back to the verse where he says Paritoshanam. Oh, okay, that's the one. Yeah. So Paritoshana means to be satisfied. Paritoshana, to complete satisfaction of the Lord. How to satisfy that Bhagwan it has to be decided by him, because God will tell us that how he will be satisfied. We can't whimsically say, okay, I will satisfy you the way I want. That is not satisfaction, that's a torture. If someone says, a wife says to husband, or a husband says to wife, that I will serve you the way I want, that is the most horrible thing we can think of, because it's a torture. The service has to be done the way the person who is going to be served. So to satisfy Bhagwan, God, we should be clear about the definition of God, how he is and who he is. And that we will come to the point of the definition or the description of the Lord by the Parama Acharya of our Sampradaya. Who is that? Lord Brahma. What he has sung, Brahma Samhita. And we will discuss some of the important verses from Brahma Samhita, because for tomorrow, it is an exceptionally good meditation for all of us, focusing on those beautiful verses sung by Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita. Samhita means it's a description. So, and when Lord Brahma sings, his body is full of intelligence. So when he sings, it's a perfect kavya. It is a perfect poetry. So that's what we will discuss in after some time. Devotees know who God is. Other people will not know who God is. Non-devotee means, for example, Mayavadi, they are trying to learn. Their idea is to gain the knowledge, and by gaining the knowledge, to come to the point that they will get merged with the Supreme. From them, what is Supreme? It's the effulgence of the Lord, which is Brahma. but that is not supreme. But as soon as there is a concept of merging, you cannot merge with a personality, right? Of course, Shishupal and all, they in Mahabharata we can read that they merged in the with Krishna, but that has a different connotation. That merging was with the Lord in terms of the Sayuja Mukti, because by getting the Sayuja Mukti, which is merging of the Lord, they were going back to Vaikuntha to do their service. So that merging is desired by the devotee to do the service, to get separated again, to do the service in the eternal abode of the Lord. That's a completely very esoteric pastime. Some later on, then if the time comes, and then we may discuss about that eventually, because in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami has explained the aspects of different types of liberation. So devotees are competent enough to satisfy the Lord. Let's come back to the main original point. Who can satisfy that? Devotees accept that Lord is a supreme personality of Godhead. And when there is a personality, that means there is a relationship. And if there is a relationship, that means there is either it's a relationship of hate or love. So devotees are not, they don't have demoniac tendencies. They have the tendency of loving reciprocal service. And that is why devotees can serve the Lord. And they are competent enough. Prabhupada has given a beautiful lecture on this. And he has made these points in his lectures that what's the definition of devotee, how devotees serve the Lord, and non-devotees, how they cannot come to the point of loving reciprocal service attitude. We know the history in terms of what are Lord's activities, and we will discuss some of the establishment of that Lord is a person by Lord Brahma in few minutes. We know his glories through the scriptures, and knowing somebody as a person, which is coming from the acharyas as it is. Isn't that something wonderful? Means, let's take an example. If a mother comes to know the glories of her son or daughter, and someone else is telling about that, and mother is describing about her son or daughter, isn't that something so satisfying to the mother and to other people as well? Because it is nothing but an exchange of love. In the same way, when we know that our object of love, our surrender is towards the Supreme Lord, and what our objective of life is to establish that loving relationship with the Lord, and that is available in the scriptures. So it is so beautiful to read the scriptures. Machita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam. Lord says that in Bhagavad Gita 10.9, that my devotees always constantly discuss about me. Madgata prana, that their whole life and soul is to discuss about me. Bodhayanta parasparam. Paraspara means among themselves. Kathayantasya mam nityam. And then they are just discussing the pastimes about Lord constantly, every day. Tushyanticha ramanticha. And they're satisfied. And they're engrossed in that. That's what Lord is saying. So we know how Lord, from the description, how he looks like, how he speaks through Bhagavad Gita, Shrunvatam Sukata Krishna, because Lord himself has established how he speaks, what is his perfection of the poetry, and such a beautiful verses, all the chanda and everything. It's a perfection again. And we know his beauty because it is described, which is beyond our power of imagination or description, but still, when we try to relate the ultimate beauty from this material world and to the Supreme Lord, and that is even beyond that, that itself is quite satisfying. So, and all his opulences, rich man is always attractive to many people. Beautiful person is always attractive to many people. But everything, materially, what we can imagine, it is far beyond that. That is the Supreme Lord. And isn't that something very satisfying? Very, it's to the heart. So, how we still, lot of people think that God, the knowledge of God is not enough. Means it does not exist. But definitely it exists. If you have the desire, then you will come to know about who God is, how he looks like, what he possesses, what he does, what are his activities. But if there is a doubtful nature, and if I was listening to, I think, Amrendra Prabhu a few days back, and he said there are only two possibilities. One is either you will love God or you will love yourself. There is no other, there is nothing in between. If you love God, you are a devotee. And if you don't love God, you are a demon. That means you love yourself. But loving yourself means there are 6 diseases. We are trying to think that they are the most important points for all of us. Lust, anger, greed, illusion, kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsar. Last is envy and starts with lust. Yes, lot of non-devotees, they think that the glorified 6 enemies are their best friends, and the garland of those, they think that those enemies are like jewels, and they put around their body and think that, yes, they're so glorious. That is nothing but a demoniac tendency. That's what, I'm just paraphrasing, but that's what Prabhupada describes in many of his lectures. So there are 5 types of knowledge, and this is getting a little bit technical, but if anyone wants to ask questions about it, yes, we will discuss that later. So 5 types of knowledge are Pratyaksha, which is a direct knowledge coming from direct perception from our senses. Aksha means eye. Prati means across. By looking through our eyes, or obviously when we look at something through our eyes are not just these eyes. When you perceive something in the brain just by hearing, that is also a type of drishti. Yeah. So pratyaksha, paraksha, paroksha, which is perceived by someone else. That is a second type of knowledge. Pratyaksha means, yes, I can see this is a monitor, this is a laptop. So someone has told that this is laptop, I have seen it. Yes, I got the knowledge that this is how the arrangement is. Paraksha, paroksha means someone else has described something. For example, our scientific knowledge, material scientific knowledge. Me, I'm a physicist by education. So read a lot of physics books, and you can get so many things about what matter is, atomic structure, nuclear physics, and so on and so forth. That is, someone has studied, used their God-given intelligence, got some interpretations, right or wrong, it's a matter of debate. And then they wrote loads of books. And some student like me who read those books, gave the exams and did his graduation and post-graduation and whatever. So this is what the knowledge which is called paroksha, second type of knowledge. Third type of knowledge is called aparoksha. Aparoksha means a knowledge by negation. Somebody who says that this cannot be true. What I see cannot be true. There has to be something else. Other person says that, yes, I have studied this, but this also cannot be true. There has to be something else. Means by logic, by material logic, when person does not understand the functional aspects, And that time they say that this cannot be true. The knowledge by negation is called aparoksha. Apa means in the reverse direction. So whatever cannot be perceived by our senses and by others' senses as well, but the knowledge exists, that is called aparoksha jnana. Aparoksha jnana means, for example, it's a knowledge of the universe. This exists. There has to be some living entity somewhere in the universe. But by logic, we will never understand that. But by negation, we will have some kind of confirmation that the living entities exist somewhere beyond the earthly planets, somewhere else in the universe. There may be another earth, or I'm giving an example. There is another type of knowledge about the mystic yoga, mystic siddhis, powers. For us, it is mystic yoga. The person who knows it, they know how to get it. They may have some logical reasoning behind it. But the person who does not understand, that is also a type of knowledge which is called aparoksha jnana. So we went through 3 types of material knowledge. Pratyaksha, paroksha, aparoksha. Then comes the 4th type of knowledge, which is called adhoksha jnana. Adha means down. Aksha means eye. Just by the glance of somebody's vision, sight, the knowledge was delivered. Who can do that? And that's only the Supreme Lord. So, adhoksha jnana comes from the Supreme Lord, and that is a deductive knowledge. First 3 types of knowledges are inductive knowledge. Knowledge by our senses, and which goes like this. It's a pyramid. And here we get the knowledge by studying. The deductive knowledge is the opposite. It's inverted pyramid. And that knowledge it comes from the creator, which is here. And what creator does, when he creates something, what he does, what's the next job he does? He gives a manual. And the manual is given in the Vedic knowledge, in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is adhoksha jnana. But there is a 5th type of knowledge. 5th type of knowledge comes from the 4th type of knowledge, which is adhoksha jnana. When we start studying the knowledge given by the Lord, that gives us the objective of life, that gives us the details, how to study and everything. And the 5th type of knowledge, it comes when we have the perfection of the 4th type of knowledge, which is through the path of bhakti yoga, which is through the path of devotional service. Because unless and until the creator tells, we follow his instructions, that means he's telling us, yes, surrender unto me. Man manava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. So obviously surrender means establishing the relationship. And that time the 5th type of knowledge comes, which is called aprakriti. Prakriti means material nature. Aprakriti means which is not material. That means it is knowledge of the spiritual world. It's the knowledge of Vaikuntha. So 4th type of knowledge, when we try to learn that, we come to the point of, yes, there is a knowledge which is beyond this material world. And that is the knowledge of the spiritual world. How it is given in Bhagavad Gita? Na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha. Yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. What Lord says is, in 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says, there is no, in my abode, na tad bhasayate suryo. There is no sun, there is na shashanko, shashanko means moon, na pavaka, pavak means fire, agni. There is no fire, there is no sun, there is no moon. And that's my abode is self-illuminated. Yat gatvada nivardante. The person who comes to my abode, they don't come back to the material life. And he says that. And tomorrow's very, very important verse we should meditate on, we should chant more and more, is which one? Janma karma chame divyam evam yogyati tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. Very related verses. Actually, those two are. 15th chapter, when somebody reads the whole Bhagavad Gita, we should start reading again Bhagavad Gita just to get that rasa, to get that mellow, the nectar, concentrated again and again and again. So that's why repetition of the reading of Bhagavad Gita is very important. So Lord's appearance, his qualities, his pastimes, everything is beyond our logic. Divya, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yo Vetti Tattvataha. And that is who understands this principle, that person will come back, go back to his supreme abode. Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma Naiti Mameti Soljina. Of course, he gives the caveat, Vite Raghav Hai Krodha, there's the next verse. You have to have some qualification to go there, and that's let's not get diverted, because we will start discussing that again. So that's the important verse we should be meditating on, especially because we are focusing on Janmashtami. That's what our mood is. And most confidential knowledge, Lord says, that's another important point I wanted to touch upon. He says that Raja Vidya Rajavayam Pavitra Vidam Uttamam. Most confidential knowledge, Lord says, but where that to understand that 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the most confidential knowledge, what we need to do. And that's the answer given in the Parama knowledge, Parama Jnana, the supreme knowledge, in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Lord says you have to go beyond the 3 modes of material nature. A person who is there in Vishuddha Sattva, that means who has crossed all the boundaries of the 6 enemies, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, Matsara. That person will understand. That's the key, the secret key to the confidential knowledge given by the Lord in the 9th chapter. So that's what, and then Prabhupada tells about this particular verse. He says that all the material activities are happening here. Everything, the movement is happening in this world. It's because there is a spiritual touch. And what is that spiritual touch? That spiritual touch is nothing but Krishna himself. And our trust that yes, this world is working properly. Tomorrow the sunrise will happen, sunset will happen, and our planned activities will happen. It is there because we have implicit understanding that this spiritual touch is going to work properly. And that's the living entity's implicit faith in the Lord, that yes, though somebody says that I don't believe in God, but there is a faith. Because at the background, the soul understands that through the earlier samskaras, that it is all working because there is some energy, there is some certain entity who is working for this movement of this material energy. And Prabhupada says that if this is all moving properly, if the movement of this material energy is happening, because the root of this is perfect, that root is working properly, and to understand the root of the tree, we need to know what is the origin of that root, and that's the Supreme Lord Krishna. And that's where he says that the first verse of 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Why the analogy of tree Lord has given is because of the first verse of the. May I request Mataji to mute? So yeah, and this, to understand that, the only way to do is to establish the relationship through the path of bhakti, and that should be our goal. Initially, it will be Karma Mishra Bhakti, that we will follow everything in such a way that we will do our day-to-day activities, and then we will offer some of the fruits or all the fruits of that eventually to the Supreme Lord. But later on, as purification continues through the path of bhakti, our goal of pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, will happen. And that's the objective. So this is what just some of the description I wanted to talk. This is a verse which automatically comes to our mind while reading this particular verse, today's verse. And notice that Atah Kumbhir Dvijashrestha Varna Shrama Vibhagashaha Swanushthis Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. Anyone would like to read the translation, because we are very few people today in the class. So the first person I can see is Pushpa Mataji. Would you like to read the translation, please?
Hare Krishna. Yes, certainly, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead.
Yes, such a beautiful verse. Do you want to say something, Mataji, or? Okay. So this verse is telling us that whatever our situation, our occupation, or our position is in this world, irrespective of caste, creed, divisions, anything, our primary objective of every person, every living entity, is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The most important point here. How to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead? By offering our prayers. And one of the most important, very poetic and a beautiful prayer I would like to touch upon. I will chant that prayer. It's a very, very beautiful prayer. Every day, I think, as soon as we get up from the bed, take shower, we should chant this prayer. It is offered by Srila Suta Goswami at the end of Srimad Bhagavatam. The prayer is very, very poetic, and I would definitely suggest that if anyone can read it every day, make it by heart. It's very powerful. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutas Tunvanti Divyaistavir Vedet Sangapada Kramo Upanishader Gayantyam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yogino Yasyantam Navidu Sura Asuragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. You can sing that in different chanda, in different meters. It's a very, very, very poetic, very beautiful prayer. And the translation, we can see, it doesn't need any details even to think upon. Suta Goswami said, "Now, who is the next person? Instead of me reading, someone else can read." It's very purifying. Would someone like to read the translation, please?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Madhuri, please do.
Translation. Suta Goswami said, unto that personality whom Brahma, Varun, Indra, Rudra, and the Maruts praise by chanting transcendental hymns and reciting the Vedas with all their corollaries, Padakramas and Upanishads, to whom the chanters of the Samaveda always sing, whom the perfected yogis see within their minds after fixing themselves in trance and absorbing themselves within him, and whose limit can never be found by any demigods or demon, unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Such a beautiful prayer, isn't it? If we see the wording here, that Veda, Vedehe, Sangha, Pada, Kramo, Upanishade, and the whole Vedic literature is singing the glories of the Lord. Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Maruta, all the demigods, everybody, Lord Shiva, Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Marut, everybody, they are singing his divine glories. All the yogis, the topmost yogi is also in their dhyana, in their meditation, they are focusing on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Paramatma. And directly or indirectly, all the human beings, all the demigods, Sura, Asura means demons as well, Gana means humans, they are also singing or glorifying the Supreme Lord himself, either directly or indirectly. Beautiful verse it is, beautiful prayer. The elaborate on this prayer, that itself is very self-explanatory. This verse is this is another prayer, one of my favorite prayers from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because tomorrow is Janmashtami, I thought we will discuss some of the important prayers. And this prayer is offered by Lord Brahma, where he says, Tadva idam bhuvana mangala mangalaya dhyane smano darshitam ta upasakanam tasmai namo bhagavate nuvidhema tubhyam yona druto narakabhagbhir asat prasangaihi. Yeah, I would encourage someone to read the translation. It's again a very, very important, very powerful prayer. So who would
Can I
like to...
read, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Yes, of course.
Thank
Please
you,
do.
Prabhuji. Translation. This present form or any transcendental form expanded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is equally auspicious for all the universes. Since you have manifested this eternal personal form upon whom your devotees meditate, I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Those who are destined to be dispatched to the path of hell neglect your personal form because of speculating on material topics. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Our deities established by Srila Prabhupada or our spiritual masters with a proper process of prana pratishtha, that form of the Supreme Lord is equally worshipable to everybody throughout the universe, not only on the earth, but light from Brahmalok to Patalok, to all the lower and higher planets. So tomorrow when we will take darshan of the Lord, we can keep this in mind that he is the one, he is there. And if we have that mood of surrender, mood of loving relationship, there will be a reciprocation from the Lord. Very, very powerful, very important prayer by none other than Lord Brahma himself. And you can read the purport, which is amazing purport given by Srila Prabhupada. Because of the timing, I think we don't have enough time to go through the purports. Here, the important another establishment of the Lord himself by while in Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. That's what we would like to read for our own purification from 8 to 15. I'm sure almost all of you know this Chatushloki Gita, all the verses and everything. But let's read these verses one by one up to 15, and it doesn't need a lot of discussion and explanation. And then we will go to Brahma Samhita, which is very essential focus to chant today, because that is so soothing, so essential to develop the mood of Janmashtami tomorrow. So, who is that Supreme Lord that which is established by the Lord himself? That we will read from 8 to 15, and then we will go to Brahma Samhita. So, may I request kindly one by one, all of you, please read the verses, start from text 8, and we will go up to 15. Who would like to start? Please?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, of course, Sundari.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly knows this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Thank you. So,
Can I read to you?
yeah, of course, please do.
Text 9. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Mataji.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I read next one?
Of course, of course.
To show them special mercy, I dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance.
Yeah.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, of course. Please do.
Text 12 to 13. Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sage, such as Narada, Ashita, Devala, and Vyasa, confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me." Hare Krishna.
Shall I try?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Hare Krishna. Oh Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, oh Lord, can understand your personality.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read, please?
Yeah, of course. 15th verse.
Text 15.
Yeah.
Indeed, you alone know yourself by your own internal potency. O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe.
Joy. So that's the Lord we worship and our relationship is with. Indeed, you are alone know yourself by your own internal potency. O Supreme Person, origin of all, Lord of all beings, God of gods, Lord of the universe. Such a amazing verse to read, isn't it? And it's 8 to 15. I'm sure all of you must have, when meditating on these verses, when all the devotees were reading, it was so pacifying. It was so wonderful to focus on these verses. So let's go to our Acharya's, one of the most important part of our study, it should be. And Prabhupada, our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has emphasized on this. That is none other than Brahma Samhita. The first verse is Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam. Yes, someone can read this.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madhu.
Hare Krishna. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes.
All causes. Excellent. Great. So the next verse is, we are going to 29. We'll skip all other verses because of the time. We don't have a lot of time with us. So yeah. This Sanskrit is very soothing. Unless someone wants to read Sanskrit, otherwise I can read Sanskrit and someone can read the translation. And so Chintamani Prakara Sadnasu Kalparuksha Lakshavriteshu Surabhi Abhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahastra Samrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yeah, someone can read the translation.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, of course, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I worship Govinda, the primordial Lord, the first progenitor who's tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. My request to everyone, including to myself, that we are reading these verses because tomorrow our mood of on the day of Janmashtami, that we are celebrating the greatest joy of our life tomorrow, the appearance, the mercy, the loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are not anatha, we are not orphans. We are the children who are trying to take the shelter of our eternal Father and Mother, Radha and Krishna. And to have that mood to understand who are our Father and Mother, whose shelter we are taking. For that, we are trying to understand how important it is to meditate on our eternal Father and Mother and how to develop that relationship in terms of the understanding of how great, how supreme the Lord is, and how fortunate we are through our spiritual master, through our acharyas, through Lord Brahma himself, that we have access to this knowledge and to these verses. So the next verse, I will chant Sanskrit there. Venum kwan antam aravindam aravinda dalayat barhavatam samasitam budasundarangam kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesh shobham govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Every morning 7 o'clock, that's what we chant. That's what our Yamuna Mataji has sung this very beautifully. So this is the verse. Who would like to read? This is a beautiful.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, please do.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So let's go to the next verse. Prabhupada, you must have heard so many times the way Prabhupada chants this verse. So, Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Malyavamshi Ratnangadam Pranaye Ke Keli Kala Vilasam Shamam Tribhangalaritam Niyata Prakasham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. What we're, someone can read, but this is the description of the Lord, and that's what we are trying to focus on, we are trying to meditate on. So, who would like to read?
May I read?
Yeah, of course. Yes, Madhuri.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shama Sundara is eternally manifest. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So that's what we are going to see, Radha Landanishwar or Radha Gokulananda. So we are going to see this form tomorrow in their beautifully decorated altar, all the chanting of the holy name constantly, and so many beautiful preparations will be there tomorrow. So that's the next verse. Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti ananda chinmaya sadujjvala vigrahasya govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. So that's also verse we chant every morning. at 7 o'clock when the curtains open. So yes, I think Chetnamataji, you wanted to read, so you can go ahead, please.
Oh, I did it. I think it was somebody else as well.
Okay. So who would like to read?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, of course, Nandini.
Okay, translation. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so Lord Brahma's humor here, each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes. At the end of the 10th chapter, Lord says that, oh Arjuna, what's the need to tell you, to describe all the opulences of mine? Those are infinite and unlimited. But with the spark of my splendor, I can create, maintain, and destroy innumerable universes like this. So that is our Lord. That is our Father. That's the Supreme Lord. That's the description here. So let's go to the next verse. And I think a couple of verses more, and then we will stop. Advaita Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Again, it's a very beautiful description, and yeah, someone can read.
Shall I try?
Yeah, of course, Nandini. Please do.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who is inaccessible to the Vedas but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not a subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet his person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
Yeah, thank you. So this verse is nothing but a confirmation. First, it is said by whom? In Bhagavad Gita, we just read, Param Brahma Param Dhama Purusham Pavitram Purusham Bhavan, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Majam Vibham. This is nothing but the paraphrased verse sung by Lord Brahma. He is eternal Purusha, Parama Purusha. So that's what Lord Brahma is saying here. So let's go to the next verse. And yeah. Panthastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo vayo rathapi manaso munipungavanan sopyasti yat prasida yat prapadasimya vichintya tatve govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Who can go next? So, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. And the last verse we will chant and we will stop there. Ekopyasau rachayitum jagadanda koti yakshaktirasti jagadanda chaya yadantaha khandantarastha paramanu chayantarastham govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. So the last verse, can someone read, and then we will just stop there. So who can go?
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, of course, Mataji.
He is His undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor, therefore, in his work. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. So, in today's verse, we started, or Prabhupada was asking us to understand who is Bhagwan, who is Bhagavat, what is the Paritoshanam, how to satisfy him, and to satisfy somebody, we should follow their mood and that person's instructions, that how we can satisfy and serve that person. Who is that person? That's what we discussed in Brahma Samhita and some of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita and some of the prayers, who that person is, and what should be our activity, what type of knowledge is there in this world, and which is given by the Lord and acquired by our senses, and what should be the objective of our life. So we discussed that today, and that was very purifying for all of us to chant the verses, the prayers by our acharyas, because this is none other than instruction of the Narad Muni, of our acharya, and whose father is none other than Lord Brahma himself. So that's why we chanted some of the verses from the Brahma Samhita and what is established by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. So that's, and then Sutta Goswami is the beautiful prayer from at the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's what our today's discussion was. I pray to the Lord that you all will get the devotion, that love and the mercy of the Lord, for tomorrow is the most auspicious and the most important day of the year, which is Sri Krishna Janmashtami. And I sincerely thank you all very much for participating in our discussions, our chanting, and